Mitch Carmichael, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of West Virginia. Mitch, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's my pleasure, gentlemen. It's great to be with you.
Welcome back. Also former Senate President as well. That's kind of hand in hand with the Lieutenant Governor thing.
Yes.
And Mitch was also in charge of economic development in the state following that post. And Mitch, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm helping with a cause called Built for America, and the issue is to basically highlight the many advantages of the tax credits that were put in place with the IRA bill. Many of those tax credits, and I was asked to volunteer for this role and to help promote the activity that is associated with those tax credits. And gentlemen, I can tell you from the economic development's perspective, and having been Senate President and Lieutenant Governor, those tax credits drive investments to Appalachian region, to West Virginia in particular, and it has done a lot of good. And just wanted to lend my voice to the opportunity to keep those tax credits in place and keep the jobs and opportunities flowing to West Virginia and to the Appalachian region writ large.
Now, Mitch, this is John Gilstrap. Could you explain how a tax credit works?
Yes. So what the real advantage of a tax credit as opposed to a grant or something like that is it's an earned benefit for the company. So in this case, the tax code is labeled 45X, 45Y, and 45E. Those are the pieces within the tax code that the paragraphs that define these tax credits. And so, for instance, a Berkshire Hathaway or a Form Energy or a Commercial Metals Corporation, someone who utilizes those tax credits to either produce energy or to produce the products that go into any energy production, like for instance, the inverters or the transformers or things like that have an element or have a component of energy production. Those are earned credits. They're not grants. They're for companies that hire Americans, put Americans to work, and produce a product, and then they earn the tax credit. In other words, they just don't pay as much taxes as they otherwise would, and therefore enables the business case for them to generate these jobs and opportunities.
Mitch, some of the tax credits you're talking about, I think, goes back to the Biden era, and specifically the Inflation Reduction Act. Two questions. One, is that what you're referring to as kind of the starting point? And the second question is, how will the big beautiful bill impact the tax credits which you're referring to?
Well, those tax credits were put in place, you're right, during some of the Biden administration terms, and they are labeled as IRA, although some of them transcend the IRA bill. But in that code, there was a 10-year phase out of those tax credits anyhow. And so what the big beautiful bill does through the House is accelerates the elimination of those tax credits. And so for those companies that have, and this is, the business cycle addresses it in a big manner. If a company sees a tax credit that the federal government has put in place, then they make investments and they make plans to build those products that the federal government is incentivizing you to do through these tax credits, and they make all these plans, put these things in place, and then they are arbitrarily pulled. It lends doubt to the credibility of the federal government to keep those credits in place, and it just disrupts the entire business cycle, and it reduces the opportunity for these companies to, they've made investments based on these tax credits, and then to pull them is just it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, the point you're making, I think, is basic economics 101. Why is the pushback? Why is the pushback of not trying to extend these tax credits or keep these tax credits in place?
Yeah, you know what it really is, I think, and the reason I've been asked to participate in this is that I have seen the advantage of it as the Secretary of Economic Development. I have seen the benefits of it, and so I think the pushback is this climate ideology or ESG kind of wokeism that has infiltrated many of the decisions that are that have been brought forth by the left and the right. So, but President Trump has, consistently been pro-worker, pro-job, pro-growth, and this tool, these tax credits, are different than a stick like the tariffs. That's one tool, a tariff. The other tool is to reward productivity, reward job creation, and it's been used by presidents from John F. Kennedy to Ronald Reagan to now Donald Trump to make sure that you're promoting productivity and hiring and job creation. And these products that they're being utilized for, they're many of the products that China dominates the world market on. For instance, solar panels and inverters and transformers for the electrical grid. These are dominated by company or countries that could have weaponized those supply chains against American industry. And so why wouldn't we want to continue to onshore that productivity, and these tax credits are the best way to do it.
Recently, Mitch, there was a picture of you with Senator Capito, and you trying to make that point. Are you being successful? Are you getting our West Virginia senators being supportive of extending these tax credits? Are they still pretty much ready to accelerate the elimination?
Well, I'm going to meet with them over the next several days, many of the U.S. senators in Washington. But that picture was from a broadband conference. I saw the photo as well. And so, Senator Capito's been incredibly influential in expanding broadband and infrastructure throughout America, and particularly in West Virginia. So I feel like the comments that many of these senators have made are in line with keeping those tax credits in place. In other words, they want the jobs, and they have seen how it impacts West Virginia. And, gentlemen, the economic activity that we had over the last several years in our state, we set the place on fire in terms of economic announcements and development. And many of those companies have a component of tax credits that are in place. And I do want to make sure I make this point, this is not about a green energy initiative, or as President Trump has labeled it, a green new scam, I think. These products and these tax credits can also help fossil fuel industries. This is an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And to the extent that economic activity and world dominance in economics is really driven by the cost of energy and the availability of low-cost energy, these tax credits keep energy prices lower than they otherwise would be. And in the long term, they are the absolute best way to incentivize growth.
Are the tax credits we're talking about company-specific or industry-targeted?
They're industry targeted so that they do not have an individual company specified for the tax credits. But, you have reported over the past year or something on the Appalachian Regional Hydrogen Hub is a good example. Those tax credits are, paramount in the company's decisions, various companies, like over 20 companies involved in that project. And then, the Form Energy has utilized the tax credits. As I mentioned, Berkshire Hathaway, Prime 6, that we recently did an announcement on. So there are many, many, many companies. It's not company-specific. It's industry targeted towards producing more available energy and the products and the components that go into energy production. And guys, I'm passionate about this issue because I believe it drives jobs, growth, opportunity, and national security interest to the Appalachian region and really to onshore American productivity of energy and manufacturing.
Okay, I just put this out there. There will be an argument that these kinds of tax credits are targeting rich companies with rich CEOs, and they're completely ignoring small businesses. And as a result, we're really tilting all of the programs toward the rich and leaving the middle class out of the act. What do you say about all of that?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is totally false. And I would like, to firmly reject that premise. This is not about big companies. This is about any company that wants to utilize and produce energy and products that go into the energy segment in America. And I'll give you perfect examples in West Virginia. Prime 6 is a startup company in Fairmont, West Virginia, that'll have up to 60, 70 employees that would not be here if not for these energy tax credits. And that's just, one top-of-mind company that I'm very familiar with that will utilize those tax credits. But, Prime 6 is not on anybody's Fortune 500 list, but they will provide great jobs in small communities, just like many other companies throughout America will utilize these tax credits.
Mitch, Bill Stubblefield again. We tend to get caught up in labels and categories, and to the point that I get very quickly confused. One of which was a program that was used, mentioned a great deal, that Senator Manchin was heavily involved with, Inflation Reduction Act. I alluded to it a few minutes ago. How much of that is the umbrella of what we're talking about right now? Does that cover most all the tax credits? Are there other acts, other bills that run parallel to the Inflation Reduction Act? I'm just trying to get my arms around what is being discussed now.
Yeah, you're right, Bill. And many of the tax credits were codified within the IRA bill, which has gotten bad, reputation. It has been demagogued, from a naming perspective. But other of these tax credits, and by the way, there are some components of the IRA that everyone agrees needs to be reformed, and we are 100%, this Built for America initiative will, gladly accept and embrace many of the reforms that have been talked about. But the key components that filter throughout the tax code should be driven towards onshoring American manufacturing might and producing low-cost energy that drives economic development throughout America. So those are the pieces that, in particular, we are most interested in. And in this age of, requirement for more and more and more energy, as artificial intelligence drives this, advanced manufacturing, and frankly, West Virginia has been subject to inordinate amount of energy residential power increases. These tax credits reduce the cost of producing energy. Therefore, they, filter through to the residential, commercial, and massive data center production also. It's a win-win-win across the board, and it's important that we keep these in place and give President Trump the tools he needs to drive jobs, growth, and opportunity to America.
Let me go back to the very first premise of what you're talking about. You're part of a group. What group is this? Who were you one of the instigators of the group? I suspect, knowing you, you're more than just a talking head. You're an intellectual driver of the group. So tell us something about the group.
Well, the group is entitled Built for America, and it's been stood up by companies throughout America, large and small, very small companies, and as well as large companies. I'm the executive director of the entity, and it's a role in which I utilize my expertise from having been in economic development. And, I've basically spent my professional career trying to make West Virginia a job-friendly, energy-producing mecca for growth and opportunity. So, and they have, they asked me to be a part of this as someone who can speak to, from a traditional fossil fuel state, how we can embrace an all-of-the-above energy strategy in which we honor and pay homage and continue to embrace our traditional fuel sources while also providing for future and providing a path for more growth and opportunity in this, regions, and many of these regions have been forgotten by the economic development, surge that we've had in America. So, I'm a big advocate for rural development, and this is one of the best ways to promote it. Thank you for the kind words, too, Bill.
I really embrace the notion, the aspiration of West Virginia becoming an economic powerhouse. But take a snapshot today, we're not quite there. And there's a concern, there's a rumbling that the Big Beautiful Bill, combined with DOGE and all the other economic efforts that are going on right now, that West Virginia, that's largely dependent on federal largesse, is going to suffer. In the Big Beautiful Bill, it's going to suffer, the rumor is, it's going to suffer Medicaid, it's going to suffer, the broadband expansion is going to go away. What is that true? Is the Big Beautiful Bill hard on West Virginia?
No, I don't. I wouldn't characterize it that way. There are, West Virginia, as well as all of America, wants to participate in making the federal government as efficient and effective as possible. And while there may be some cuts that we disagree with, and I'm not a public official in West Virginia any longer. I am just speaking from a historical perspective of having worked in the government and driven economic development in our state. And your premise is right. We're not on fire economically, but I can tell you these tax credits for which I'm advocating and others are advocating are the best, one of the absolute best mechanisms to continue the upward trend that we're having in West Virginia. We've made, you guys know, you've reported it, you've done a great job, many changes over the last decade to West Virginia's business climate, and it's been well received throughout America and frankly internationally. And as we continue to tell this story, one of the big tools and selling points of West Virginia can be these tax credits that drive economic growth towards traditionally energy dependent communities. And we're seeing the results from it. All I have to do is say, hey, I don't have to listen. This isn't a maybe this will happen or this could potentially happen. This is happening. We can point to many jobs here in West Virginia that are dependent on these tax credits. And for me, it's not a grant, and that's the beauty of it. This isn't like a handout to a company to say maybe you can do this. This is an earned credit from companies that make an investment, hire people, put them to work, and participate in the economic resurgence of America and of West Virginia.
Are you dialed in at all to the Medicaid elements? The Big Beautiful Bill is kind of on the outside of this, which I know you're focused particularly on these tax credits. Are you dialed into the rest of the Big Beautiful Bill?
No, I'd be remiss if I tried to expound upon those elements. But I will say that Medicaid, having more jobs and growth as a result of the tax credits only helps alleviate the Medicaid backlog and cost of the system. And that's my heart goes out to anyone who feels threatened by Medicaid cuts, and I'm very hopeful that the that those who deserve the benefits continue to receive them.
Mitch, the governor, Governor Morrissey, has recently done a big push for data centers, but more important, the micro generators. Do you see the micro generators being part of the tax credit program that you're referring to?
Oh, fantastic question. I wish I'd have brought it up earlier. 100%. Governor Morrissey is 100% right on this data center initiative that he has, and this these tax credits that provide opportunities for lower cost energy in these microgrid areas that can accommodate data centers or advanced manufacturing or other revenue generating opportunities. It is hand in glove. It fits perfectly, and frankly, without these tax credits, the microgrid bill is not as effective. He is dialed in perfectly with the microgrid initiative. I think it's brilliant, and the tax credits only make it more relevant and more meaningful at this moment. It is the perfect marriage.
Mitch Carmichael has been our guest here on the program. Mitch, final thought from you about the Green Power Motor Company and their troubles. They are blaming it on tariffs. Was there something else going on there, or was that really strictly about tariffs? Any idea?
No, in my view, it's not about tariffs. That company was experiencing problems, and so they've. I'm sure tariffs have maybe a future impact or so forth, but that it's been well documented. The company was in, various stages of difficulty. I was there when we put that deal together, and it's, what I would say is any benefit that the state taxpayer provided went to the building that is now, South Charleston, owned by the city of South Charleston. We protected the taxpayer every possible way, and which is the exact right way to do economic incentives. And reason, again, back to the purpose of the show here today, is the reason I'm such an advocate for earned benefits, like the tax credits, where companies must invest, they must produce, and they must hire Americans in order to get any benefit. And it only helps all of us. And our economy writ large.
Mitch, thanks so much for your time this morning. Always great to catch up with you.
Oh, I love talking to you guys. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mitch.
Bye.
Mitch Carmichael, former Senate President, Lieutenant Governor of the state of West Virginia, and Built for America, where he is the Executive Director now, appearing in that role there.